Just a quick heads up, there are going to be some major story spoilers for both Blind Forest and the recently released Will of the Wisps in this video, so please watch at your own discretion. The young spirit born from the spirit tree of Nibel, Ori. Ori was lost from their home during a great storm, but was soon adopted by the motherly Naru, where they lived a happy life. But it was short-lived, as the forest they lived in was slowly dying due to the actions of the grieving Owl of Darkness, Kuro. After Naru's death, Ori was tasked by the spirit tree itself to bring life back to the forest. A dangerous journey, but one that only Ori, the last of their kind, could do. As Ori traveled, they grew stronger, gaining the power to not only bring life back to the forest, but to be able to do so a second time a whole continent over. And now, with that power in tow, Ori will get to show everyone just what they're truly capable of when being faced against many others in the world of Super Smash Bros. So getting right into things, Ori would be a pretty light and nimble character, having a lot of movement speed both on the ground and in the air. They'd have 2 jumps, and they'd be able to both wall jump and wall cling. So it's interesting, since between both of Ori's games, they actually had 2 different means of offense. In Blind Forest, they borrowed from the power of the Eyes and Light of Nibel, Seen. Whereas in Will of the Wisps, Ori learned to wield a wide variety of weapons that they used on their own. For this moveset, I have decided to pull mostly from their Will of the Wisps move pool, since it allows for a wider variety of attacks, and because Seen isn't even present in Will of the Wisps, due to the fact that by the ending of Blind Forest, Seen returned to the Spirit Tree of Nibel and remains there for the rest of the series. So my apologies for those who wanted me to include them, but Seen will not be involved in this moveset. It will be all Ori. And to start things off with Ori's jab, they'll be using the power shared with them from the memories of the first ancient tree that Ori finds in the land of New Wen, the Spirit Edge, a blade of concentrated light used so Ori may cut down anyone in their way. The jab will have Ori use the same exact combo attack that they used in their game, though unlike Will of the Wisps, where Ori could do a 5-hit jab, Ori will only have a 3-hit jab for this moveset. Mainly because of those 5 hits, the first 2 swings are identical to the 3rd and 4th swings. As for the swings themselves, the first hit will be a diagonal high to low blade swing forwards, the second is a horizontal slash going into the opposite direction, and the jab ends with a straight stab attack to launch foes away. Their dash attack can have them use their dash skill, a movement option that allowed Ori to lunge forwards to keep up their high-paced momentum. It wasn't an offensive option in their base game, but it will be here, having Ori leap forwards a pretty far distance and end with a rolling somersault. It's not a very strong move, but it's very quick, allowing Ori to leap away from danger or to close in on foes without giving them much time to react. It's also a dash attack that won't stop at ledges, so be careful when using it towards a ledge, but this can allow for all kinds of offstage follow-up options. For their side tilt, they used the important gift dropped by Ori's former enemy, the Feather of Kuro. For this move, Ori uses the flap skill that can be used by the feather, swinging the feather horizontally forwards to create a strong gust of wind. Getting hit by the feather does deal damage, but it's a very weak move, with the side tilt's most prominent utility being to blow foes away with the wind that it generates. That wind deals no damage or hit stun, only being capable of pushing foes away, which is great as a get off me tool or to really make free-falling foes upset. The up tilt can have Ori use the upward attack of the Spirit Edge, doing a small leap while swinging the blade overhead from front to back. It covers a wide range, and because Ori leaps, it can be used to dodge lower attacks. The down tilt can have Ori use a skill that can be taught to them by the monkey man named Ophir, the Spirit Star. The original utility of this tool in Will of the Wisps was to be used as a type of boomerang or Castlevania cross, but it could also be upgraded to make it so that Ori could stop it in place, and that's what they'll be doing for this down tilt. They'll spawn the Spirit Star in front of themselves, making it spin in place low to the ground. Any foe hit by it will take multi-hitting damage, then be launched into low forwards angles when the attack concludes. That said, this down tilt is a lot more dangerous than you might think, because it's actually a lingering attack. When Ori conjures the star, they're actually able to move around before the star vanishes from that spot. They're unable to use the down tilt again until the star disappears, but regardless, this means that it can be used for all kinds of nasty combo setups, or even to trap foes to deal a lethal blow. And speaking of dealing lethal blows, for Ori's smash attacks, they'll be using by far the most hard-hitting skill that Ophir can teach to them: the powerful Spirit Smash attack. Fitting, wouldn't you say? The Spirit Smash has Ori conjure a large hammer that deals massive damage and launches foes into incredible distances. But the trade-off is that it's very slow, having quite a bit of wind-up, and it leaves Ori vulnerable after using it. In fact, due to that low speed, trying to use it to hit foes caught in the Spirit Star down tilt might not be too reliable, since more often than not, the foes will be launched by the star itself before Ori's able to connect any hit with the Spirit Smash. That's the case for Will-o'-the-Wisps, and that'll be the same case for all three of their smash attacks. The side smash will have Ori use the crouching attack of the Spirit Smash, which has them swing the hammer overhead from back to front, slamming it into the ground. This is Ori's hardest hitting attack, bar none, dealing massive damage, being able to KO at early percents, and it deals a ton of shield damage. The up smash can be the upward Spirit Smash attack, which is like the upward Spirit Edge attack, having Ori do a small leap while swinging the weapon overhead from front to back. The obvious difference being whereas the Spirit Edge is quick, the Spirit Smash is deadly, having way more power. And the down smash can have Ori swing the hammer horizontally on both sides of himself, swinging to the front first, then immediately swinging to the back afterwards. The first hit of this move is the quickest to come out compared to the other smash attacks, but that's not really saying much considering it's still rather slow wind-up. And it has a more limited area to swing compared to the wider swings of the side and up smashes. The attack itself comes from the first hit of Ori's Spirit Smash combo, but specifically when you use it, then turn around and use it again immediately after. For Ori's neutral aerial, they'll use another skill taught by Ophir, this one being Blaze. This has Ori release an explosion of flames from their body that hits all around their personal space. Blaze exploded into a pretty large radius in Will-o'-the-Wisps, but for Smash, I am nerfing its size to about half of that. It also had a function of burning monsters hit by it, dealing damage to them over time, but that'll also be absent for this moveset. Regardless, it comes out very fast and launches foes on contact, making it a great shine like Get Off Me tool. For their forward air, Ori will once again use their dash, specifically its aerial version of course. It has similar properties to the dash attack. It's very weak, but it can be used for a great amount of mobility, though this time in the air. Great to close in, get away, for recovery, and on top of that, if you use it towards a wall, then Ori will automatically cling to it. For the back air, it can be a projectile back air that has Ori use the skill called Spike. It has Ori shoot a spear straight backwards horizontally. It flies a fair distance before disappearing, though it will vanish sooner if it hits anything. It's also pretty powerful, but it does have a bit of startup. The up air can once again have Ori use the Spirit Star, though this time right above themselves. It has the same properties as the down tilt, being a lingering attack that allows Ori to move even before it disappears. It also deals multi-hitting damage before launching with the final hit, only this time it launches foes upwards. And for the down air, Ori goes back to using the Spirit Edge and stabs it straight downwards, its actual downward air attack in Will-o'-the-Wisps. A quick but basic attack with a decent amount of range, though it is pretty thin so it does require a bit of precision, and it will spike foes who are hit by its sweet spot. To grab opponents, Ori will be making use of the grapple skill. It'll be a tether grab that can be used for recovery and as an additional aerial attack. They'll pummel by emitting a small blaze from their body to burn foes, and for all of Ori's throws, they can use one of their most iconic skills that they learned from the memories of Reem, the bash skill, a technique that allows Ori to propel themselves off of anything while sending that thing into the opposite direction. In fact, that'll even be a factor here, as using these throws not only launch foes away, but they also have Ori leap a fixed distance into the direction opposite that they threw the foe. So the forward throw sends the foe forwards while Ori leaps back, the back throw sends the foe backwards while Ori leaps forwards, the up throw sends the foe up but Ori remains in place, and the down throw will smash the foe into the ground and force them to lie there while Ori themselves flies upwards. For Ori's neutral special, they use the memories passed on to them from deep within Inkwater Marsh, the Spirit Arc. It's a bow and arrow, and Ori will be taking up a page from Link in terms of how they use it. It has Ori fire gravity-affected arrow projectiles straight forwards that deal small damage. Tapping has the arrows be fired and fall soon after, whereas holding the button down lets Ori charge it up, then after the full charge, fires an arrow that flies much farther at top speed. For their side special, Ori can use the Light Burst skill, a power that lets Ori throw gravity-affected orbs of light that explode after a set amount of time. Tapping the button simply has Ori chuck one forwards, but if you hold it down, it has Ori ready themselves. Then if you hold the control stick into any direction, Ori will aim it, then will throw the light burst into that chosen direction once you let the button go. Getting hit by the orb itself deals small flinching damage, whereas getting hit by the explosion is much more deadly, dealing moderate damage and a rather deceptive amount of knockback. Though landing the explosion might be a tad difficult, since it takes about 4 seconds for the orb to finally explode. You're also only able to have one light burst on screen at a time. Trying to throw a new one before the prior one explodes will result in nothing happening. That said, if you find yourself in a spot where you're able to throw the orb but change your mind, you can cancel the side special while you're aiming by shielding. Now for Ori's up special, this could have them use one of the last abilities that they learn in Will of the Wisps, the launch skill. As you might guess from the name, this allows Ori to launch themselves into any chosen direction. And that's pretty much the gist of it. You activate up special, then during the startup, holding into any direction with the control stick will have Ori fly into that direction. It deals decent damage and knockback, and Ori does go into freefall afterwards. That said, despite being a simple attack control-wise, it does have one additional feature to it. Specifically when you use it right next to either a foe, item, or projectile. Whenever Ori initiates launch, they emit a small light wave from their body, and if any of the aforementioned subjects are within the range of the wave, then instead of launch, Ori will perform the bash. I brought up the bash for the grabs. It's the skill that allows Ori to launch themselves into any direction by jumping off of something, thereby launching that thing into the other direction. And that's what'll happen for the up special. It still controls just like launch, but now it has the added effect of Ori shooting whatever or whoever it is they're bashing into the direction opposite that Ori's launching into. Regardless of damage, opponents will always be sent a fixed distance, but needless to say, they're probably still better off not being too close to Ori if they think they're about to use the special, especially while Ori's trying to recover. They're better off timing it so that they can try to edgeguard Ori after they initiated launch. Bash can also be used to effectively reflect projectiles into any direction. Of course, be cautious when doing so, since you don't want to accidentally throw Ori into a bad spot just for the sake of sending a projectile into a certain direction. And even bashing off of stationary items can be a means of turning those items into projectiles, treating them as if they were just being thrown normally. As for the final benefit of taking advantage of Bash, it does send Ori a little farther compared to launch. It also will not put Ori into freefall, and they are able to use up special again afterwards. It's only when you use launch when you're no longer able to use it, since that's what puts Ori into freefall. And finally, for Ori's down special, this could have them use the skill taught from the memories of Ilo, the Stomp. This has Ori ball themselves up, then charge straight down. Any foe in the way take decent damage and are knocked out of the way, that is unless Ori hits them right at the start of the stomp, in which case it'll spike the foes. If it collides with the ground, then Ori releases an explosion of energy outwards that deals damage and knocks foes away. If there's no stage underneath you though, don't fret. Ori won't be totally committed to the stomp if you aren't. While they do automatically fly down a fixed distance, if you're not continuously holding the control stick down after activating stomp, then Ori will stop the stomp after going that fixed distance. Otherwise, if you are holding it, then Ori will keep going until you let the control stick go, or when they finally reach the stage or blast zone if you're not careful. They'll still have that falling momentum even if you stop the attack, but at the very least, you'll get to move. With this setup, you can not only save yourself if you use stomp over the blast zone, but you'll be able to pull all kinds of mix-ups on foes, keeping them guessing as to whether or not you'll go through with the full stomp. It also gives Ori another vertical option for either closing the gap or getting away from foes who are above you. Take advantage of that movement, and that doesn't only apply to the down special, that applies to all of Ori's arsenal overall. They're very much a hit and run kind of character. Just like in Ori's games, especially during those escape sequences, Ori should always be on the move. dancing around their opponents just like how a leaf dances in the wind. Which in this case, honestly, is rather fitting. For Ori's final smash, they'll use the power of their birthplace, the Divine Spirit Tree. This will be a passive final smash, meaning that even after it's activated, the match will still continue as if nothing's happening. Of course, that isn't fully the case. The Spirit Tree appears in the background of the stage and releases its divine light, encompassing the entire screen. During the 5 seconds that this final smash is active, Ori and any teammate that they might have will be healed by 50%. All the while, all foes will be taking damage that quickly racks up by 60%. And if their damage goes over 200% while still being showered in the light, then they will automatically be KO'd. For colors, Ori's default shows them in their usual glowing white light, and for their alts, they can be based on the various spiritual collectibles that Ori can find throughout their adventures. Starting with a glowing green color, referencing the life orbs that increase Ori's max health, then a blue color, in reference to the energy orbs that increase Ori's max energy gauge, then an orange color, referencing the spirit orbs that Ori uses to either unlock or buy new skills. Here's a purple color, harkening to the Gorlek ore that can be used to build up the Wellspring Glades in Will of the Wisps. Here's a red color, which would be original. Here's a dark navy color, which can be in reference to the owls, such as Ori's adopted sister, Ku. And finally, here's a black color scheme, which can reference the other members of Ori's family, Naru and Gumo. The stage intro can simply have Ori take a safe landing and float down to the stage using Kuro's feather. For taunts, Ori's first can have them spin in place, then pull their hands to their face, in reference to the animation that Ori does whenever they use the power of a spirit well. Their second can show some wisps floating around Ori, which Ori gets distracted by until they vanish. And their final can have Ori show off and do a single arm handstand, which is what they do whenever you climb to the top of a pole. And finally, for Ori's victory animations, their first can have Ori replicate the animation whenever they obtain a new power from the ancestral trees, floating in place surrounded by light, then lands with a pose. Their second can show a content Ori sleeping on Naru's belly, referencing the ending image of Blind Forest. And their final can be a bitter yet sweet reference to the ending of Will of the Wisps, where at first it just shows a patch of grass until suddenly a small tree sprout grows from it, carrying Ori's light that will soon be a new spirit tree. And that does it for What If Ori was in Smash! These were some fantastic games. I personally find myself not that interested in the Metroidvania style, but boy did Ori prove to give me an exception, even if they did make me cry on more than one occasion. Also, real quickly, I am fully aware that Ori made an appearance in Rivals of Aether. I don't know if this is obvious or not, but I didn't bother looking at that. I really didn't need to. Ori's games gave me way more than enough to work with. Though, how much do you guys want to bet that there will be folks who comment about that before finishing this video? Seriously, why do people do that? Commenting before finishing the video? Bound to write about something that ends up being addressed later on. Honestly, only dweebs do that. But if you're not a dweeb and are still watching this far in, and if you enjoyed what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys, you can click the join button either below the video or my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. Doing so will get you access to my private Discord as well as channel emotes. You can guarantee that your name appears in my videos, or even get the option of knowing what if character is coming up next a week in advance. I really appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you want to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below, or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, thank you so much for not being a dweeb, and thank you so much for watching!